Busy moms everywhere look at the women they consider to be superhuman and go, how does she do all of that? Well, today you're going to meet a San Antonio investor who has successfully flipped over 1,000 houses. She's built a portfolio of rental properties and notes, and she's done all of this while raising 5 children. You're in for a treat today, so stay tuned. Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. My guest is San Antonio investor Melissa Johnson. Melissa has been investing since 2003, and she's flipped over 1,000 houses. She has built a portfolio of rental properties and real estate notes. She coaches other high-level real estate investors, all while raising 5 children. Quite impressive.
Thank you.
She's also the co-founder of the San Antonio InvestHer meetup group. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So you have, and I just hit the highlights of her resume. I'll put the full resume in the bio. But I want to just back up and start a little bit from the beginning and talk about how you got started in real estate, because in 2003, it was not what all the women were jumping into and doing, for sure.
That is so true. It's so different now than it was back then, even.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds terrible to say back then. I feel like it's like 100 years ago, but
I know.
It's a different time. Yeah. So getting started, I came from a corporate type background, worked for a defense contractor, met my husband at the time, and his father was doing real estate. And, real estate wasn't on my radar. Being an entrepreneur wasn't on my radar. It was never, I guess it was in me, but I didn't know it at the time. Mm-hmm. And, we were talking to him about things, and I could see this great life he was having, and it just seemed like he was having so much fun, and he had all these rental properties, and so we thought that would be great if we could just have a lifestyle like that. We were really attracted to the lifestyle. It wasn't so much the money, it was the freedom, especially at that time. I had 3 kids already, and so we started doing it part-time for a while, and then he got laid off, and so went full-time. And then probably 6 to 8 months after that, I decided that I did not want to still be at work anymore. He was out having way too much fun without me. So, even though I was doing it part-time with him, it was so much easier transitioning both of us to full-time for a while. And so we did full-time real estate investing, I think starting in 2004. I think it took about a year to get fully up and running that way, and then doing that ever since.
Well, that's actually pretty fast, a year. I talked to a lot of people that seem to be an overnight success, and they'll say, one guy told me, I drove a box truck for 10 years. So no, it wasn't an overnight success. So that's really pretty fast. So did you start out right outside of the gate, with flipping or rehabbing? What was your investing strategy from right in the beginning?
So we had a mentor, and our mentor was big. He did a lot of rehabbing and a lot of buy and hold, like creating owner finance notes and buying rental properties. So those were the 3 main strategies that we started with. Mm-hmm. A lot of rehabbing, flipping that way. We did a couple of wholesale deals, but it wasn't called wholesaling back then for some reason. I don't know. It didn't have a name. So we were just still calling it a flip. But there were deals, that we did that we didn't make any repairs on, but it wasn't a thing like it is now. People weren't building entire businesses based on that at that time that I'm aware of. So we did a little bit of that, but we created a lot of notes and sold a lot of notes. Also was a big part of our strategy, because at that time, before the crash, you could sell notes, for really great returns. So it was kind of nice being able to sell a note and get like 95% or whatever it was. It was something crazy. Mm-hmm. And we had a good relationship with a note buyer, and it was just another good exit strategy to have, to move properties, being able to offer the owner financing, create the note, and then sell the note. So we did a lot of that in the beginning.
That's very interesting because that I think of that as a more advanced strategy for, especially for people getting started doing that. It got a little bit harder after Dodd-Frank,
Hmm.
but that was really, if you think about waiting for your money over time, all those years, or getting 95% of your money now, what a great strategy.
For sure. And we did keep some of those. We didn't sell all the notes, but and the only reason we could even do that was because we had mentors that were doing it and taught us how to do it at the beginning. So it was a good exit strategy.
Now, when it comes to what you did in the business, yeah, I'm always interested to know when people started a business with a partner or with a husband. Did you all have clearly defined roles, or was one person the marketing person, another person that negotiated, or how did that look like for you?
That's a great question. It's something I don't think gets talked about enough working with spouses. We had loose kind of roles, but looking back, and one thing I always coach people on now is if you are working with a spouse, you need to sit down right now and define the roles, who's going to do what, because what we ended up doing was overlapping a lot. There was a lot of crossover, just kind of like, I can't get to that, can you do that kind of thing. But for the most part, the way it kind of shook out was he did acquisitions,
Mhm.
the marketing, and we kind of shared the lead manager roles, sort of taking calls and getting information, stuff like that. I did all the bookkeeping. I did a lot of we kind of shared the project management too. So he would manage the contractors, but I would plan out a lot of the design kind of stuff. Um, and then I would do all the dispositions of all the properties. So I was in charge. And at that time, which was crazy, we did everything FISBO.
Oh,
So,
I remember those days. I remember.
yeah, yeah. You just put your red and white signs out and your directional signs, everywhere. And I would have open houses, for people, and basically kind of acting like a realtor, but
Mhm.
not, because we own the property. So it was fine. But excuse me. That was a lot of work. And especially when you have kids, I remember dragging my poor kids, to all these houses all the time. And, Sophie was in the carrier basket, and going through and trying
Yeah,
to do a scope of work with her. And it was just crazy.
yeah. That's what you call a committed real estate investor, though. And for women out there that think they can't do this, that really is how you do it. If you don't have a babysitter, you put the baby in the carrier and you just go.
Yep.
Yeah. So you started out, you were always then primarily in the rehabbing end of it.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that you did a lot of the design work, which I think women are really, really good at that part of it. I think it makes the houses more saleable at the end.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And I'm a creative person, so I really enjoy that, being able to be creative in
Mhm.
the business somehow, instead of it just being all, cut and dry business stuff. That was something that was really
That was
fun for me to do.
that was the fun part. Yeah, that was always the fun part for me. Um, the pretty of the house and the design of the house. So
Yep.
you mentioned that you have rental property. So did you start to acquire rental property right away?
Um, Pretty much, yeah. That was again at the time where you could people were buying REOs like crazy. So we were running around establishing relationships with the top REO realtors in San Antonio. And so when those, we early kind of established some criteria for that. So when those deals would pop up that we might want to keep, then we would keep those as rentals. But we tried to build a balanced sort of portfolio of the notes, the rentals, and then the flipping, just to have cash coming in. But we always had a mind of having long-term passive income. So I remember I had a whiteboard in my office and we wrote magic number. And every time we would get another property, it was so fun to add, what that monthly passive income, was
Mhm.
gonna, what it added to that number each month. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and what I have learned over the years is that people that can hang in there to be buy and hold landlords for the long term, you have to be very focused on that. Otherwise, all the problematic issues of having rental property, they get you down. So
For sure.
And you touched on a point there that whether it's wholesaling or rehabbing, that's a job. But the rentals and the notes and things, they are passive income.
Right.
So that's something to think about with for anybody that's starting a business. The best of both worlds is to have some cash because it helps fuel your business. But then your passive income is someday freedom.
Right.
And
We
it
always
might,
looked at it that way,
yeah, might come,
retirement.
it's your retirement, and it may come sooner than what you think because you may not need quite as much money as you think you do. Everybody has a magic number they think is 10 paid off houses. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. A lot of that's going to depend on what your expenses are at the time. Do you have kids in college? You're going to probably need more than 10. But once you got all the kids out of the college and you say, what are my basic needs? Then that number is constantly evolving. So it's important to have a plan along the way. And what's your freedom plan? What's your freedom number? So I love that you had that on a whiteboard. Another thing I love, whiteboards.
Oh yes, I love whiteboards. I think it's worth saying too, if you are building a portfolio, having those kinds of things to keep in mind that you need reserves for that stuff too. Mm-hmm. Especially during this time, I see a lot of people that have, a lot of rental properties and stuff, and they, when people aren't paying, what are you going to do? Do you have the reserves to be able to, continue to pay the taxes, to pay the insurance, stuff like that on those properties. So being mindful of that as part of your cash flow too.
Yeah. And if the houses aren't paid for, then you've got all those mortgages to pay for. If nothing else has taught us in this pandemic is you need a lot of reserve money.
Right.
A lot of reserve money to survive. So I was especially interested to talk to you about the whole side of women being in real estate, since we talked about that a little bit before the show, because Melissa and I both came from a time when it wasn't common. In some areas, it wasn't even particularly accepted that women could be successful in real estate investing. I know for me, I've been trying to get it's more like drag women into the business for more than 20 years. But I have seen a big difference in the past, maybe 5-6 years. And I think, I want to get your take on this, but I think certainly blogs and podcasts and the women doing those things are a determining factor in showing other women that it is possible. But there are also other ways that meetup groups and things like that. But what do you think has the hang up is with women, and what do you think has finally changed that has changed all of this so that women feel welcomed into this business?
I think that definitely something that has, well, first of all, for the first question, I feel like, one of the big barriers for women that I see a lot is, this hesitation or fear. And I think when you drill down through all the excuses, I have to check with my husband about something, or, I have to have a partner with this, or, I don't have time. I want to do this, but there's all these excuses. And I think those are all based in fear when you boil it down to its core. And I think there's just a fear there. And I think that women don't feel, we're sensitive creatures, right? Mm. And women need a little bit more. A man is just going to go out there, and this isn't across the board for everybody. I understand that, but I feel like in general, just because I've talked to a lot of people, men, they'll decide they're going to do something, they just charge forward and do it, right. And they're willing to spend the money and take the risk and make mistakes and, and everything, because men have that desire to provide for their family. Mm-hmm. And women, we have some different obstacles because we're almost, kind of looked down upon when we try to provide for our family. If we work too much or something, then we feel like we're being, not a good parent or not a good wife or something, that we're neglecting something else in our lives. And so that's part of that fear too, is, the fear of, you know, what if I disappoint my family? What if I can't do this? What if I don't have, you know, the ability to do this? And, you know, it's just, they're scared. And so, you know, part of overcoming that fear is to, I think, to feel supported. And I feel like now there's so many more places that women can go to be supported in the journey. And that was not there before. And you know that too. You know, there was no women's groups or anything when I got started. It was every time I'd go to a RIA meeting or something, it was nothing but men. If any women were there, they were there with their husband. I never saw any women by themselves doing anything. Other than Robin Thompson, who I was a big fan of at the time.
Yeah, Robin, we're all fans of Robin.
Yeah, you know, she was awesome. And she was kind of like the only role model that I could find of a woman doing anything in real estate. So that, I think, has definitely changed. I think there's a lot more women out there doing it, that are talking about it. But I still think the challenges are not talked about enough, and overcoming those and bridging that gap between education and action, you know, is just, there's a disconnect there that needs to be fixed somehow.
Well, and I think it's confidence. Women, they don't have the same confidence men have traditionally, even in the corporate world. Men just go for it. And I think today's girls are being raised differently. I know that when I look around, they're being raised differently. When I was raised, men were expected to act like this, boys and girls, and boys could do these things and girls were different. But I think the generations that I look at now, they're raising their girls differently in most cases. So I'm hoping that they will have a different level of confidence than maybe that you and I had. I had very supportive parents that were, they always told me, you can do whatever you want to do. My dad was very forward thinking. He was, one time when a book came out, this is a story, it was a book called Catcher in the Rye, which I think by today's standards is probably a nothing book. But I remember that I was a child, and the grown-ups were whispering about the Catcher in the Rye. And I remember my mom saying, we've got that book in this house. What are you gonna do with this book? And he said, and I was the oldest child, he said, look, I believe that a child can read whatever they can read and understand. He said, I'm not a censor in books, but that was the way he was in life. If you felt like you were 16 and you wanted to start a business, then okay, that's fine with me. So I didn't have those restrictions. I didn't have that mental thought process, but the actual being able to do it, and I was still lacking in the actual confidence that I could actually do it because it was a man's world. Mm-hmm. So you've got the confidence, you've got the mindset, you've got all of that, and mindset is huge.
Oh yeah, it's the foundation for all of this. I really feel like you can't be successful in any business without the proper mindset.
No, so how do people change that? How, if people are feeling like they can't succeed, they don't, if it's just tools they need, there's plenty of places that with the online groups, the blogs, the podcasts, they can find those things. But how do we lift them up to where they think that they can overcome these self-limiting beliefs that they have? How do we do that?
Man, it's a struggle. I'm still working on that. And I think, again, I think it boils down to just this need for almost like permission. I feel like women need permission to do something. They're seeking like permission or validation or something. And, we're afraid to fail, and I think that if a woman out there that wants to do something bad enough, wants to do it, you will find somebody that you can connect with that will help inspire you, and maybe that's like the bigger thing, is feeling supported, but also feeling inspired by somebody. I was thinking about this recently too, because I am a big reader. I love books.
Yeah.
And I read tons of personal development books. And so when things happen, I always know like where I should get in my head and the things I should be doing and everything, but I still have a hard time sometimes taking the action. And I've really been digging into that for myself lately too. And one thing that I realized was that I had read this book, the Everything is Figure Outable.
Yes, I know. Don't you love
I'm
that?
like, yeah, I'm like, how have I never heard of this woman? She's
Yeah.
amazing. And she completely resonated with me. And she, again, it's, you read enough of these books, you start reading the same thing. The concepts are all the same, but the way it is presented is different depending on who's, presenting the material. And for some reason, the way she would say things really hit me in a way that it stuck with me. So I think if you can find a person that really inspires you, that speaks your language, that can get through to you and help you be inspired to take action, that I read that book and that's what inspired me to launch the whole coaching thing. I was thinking about it for like a year, but I was too scared to do anything and, making all the excuses,
Yes.
I don't have time for that right now. And I'm really busy and I need to focus on my other business right now. And, I was going through a divorce and a lot of personal things. And then I read that book and she's, I love how she says, and I think you said it too earlier, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love
that's what women need
reading.
to ask themselves. Yeah. That was so key for me though. She's like, if you're worried about failing or you're worried about trying something, do it, or think first, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? And then you just do it. And that way, at least you know what the worst thing is and you can make a plan for that and not just, fly blind, but then you can say, okay, well, I did it. Here's my contingency plan if it doesn't work. And if it is successful, then you took action and you made it happen.
Yeah. I am a big believer in having a plan B, always with the idea that you're going full force with plan A. But I think having a plan B gives you a certain comfort level, like you're not jumping out of a plane without a parachute.
Right.
And I actually think if you don't use your plan B as an excuse not to complete your plan A, I think it's actually a good thing. Now, if you're constantly landing up on your plan B, then I think you have a problem. But yeah, that book, Everything is Figure Outable, I have never forgotten that phrase. So I've been a fan of hers for a long time, but I love that. And I love that we were talking about books. Melissa's writing a book. That's certainly on my radar to do. And she finally, when you read her book, she had a struggle writing her book. So everybody, even people that are famous today, they have these same struggles. And it's a matter of, do you just do it anyway and have your plan? But I always go back to that. What's the worst thing that can happen? If you say I'm going to die, that's a totally different thing. But
well, we're all going to die, so you can't plan for that.
So I know I've done talked to a lot about why I think this business is perfect for women, because it gives them tremendous flexibility for working moms at every stage along the way, from babies to grade school to high school. And do you agree with that it is a business that you can totally work around? You have 5 children, so I know you're going to know the answer to this one. Navigate that whole process with your children and all the responsibilities and things you have to do with them, but you can still do this business.
Oh, for sure. And that's not to say any of that was easy, by any means, but when you're really committed to doing something, and, for me, again, just going back to, why do I want this business? Why do I want to do this? Well, I want, financial freedom that's a given. I don't like when that's people's first answer, because there's something deeper there, and for me, it was having a lifestyle business. I didn't know that that's what it was called at the time, but I always loved the fact that I could work around my family schedule. And that's the way I always did it. I didn't make it go the other way. A lot of people, they run the business, they fit the family in around that. My focus was always taking care of the family and making and working around my family. And that business, being in real estate has really allowed me to do that. I've never I don't miss anything. You know, I get to go have lunch with my kids at school when I want to. I go to all their games, track meets, all those things. Throughout all the years, I was able to do all of that. You know, every once in a while I'd have to miss something, but for the most part, you know, really got to live life on my terms, which is just, you can't put a price tag on that.
No, that's the best. To creating a lifestyle and a freedom type of business. And that doesn't mean you don't work, but it
Right.
means you get to work when you want to work, and you can do the important stuff like go to your kids' school.
Right.
So what about systems and processes? I'm sure you've developed those over the years. I know this is something people struggle with a lot. Myself, I'm always still working on that. I've always felt like it was a weakness of mine. It's getting things down to where you can take yourself out of the equation. I always think of a friend of mine who says, your goal should be that your business runs independent of you, that you should be the face of your business, but you make yourself irrelevant to the day-to-day operations of your business. So I think that is a lofty goal, but that all comes down to systems and processes and having a few key people that you can give work off to. So what about your systems and processes?
I'm a big systems and processes fan. Only because I know what it has done for me and my business. You know, that there's a lot of things with that. So one is, you know, when you don't have systems and processes in place, you become the bottleneck,
Yes.
you know, for everything in your business. Because if everything's got to run through you, or you've got to stop what you're doing and, you know, figure something out for somebody, or, you know, learn how to do something or train somebody, you know, that's taking your time away, and that's working in your business, not on it.
Right.
You know, so nobody really wants to take the time to do this. Everybody's like, systems and processes. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not a glamorous part of the business at all. But if you take the time to do it now, you're going to see the return on that later, like over and over. And like the ROI on doing that is crazy, you know, because that really is what allows you to be able to walk away when you need to. You know, you obviously always want to have your finger on the pulse of your business, but you know, if I want to go away for a week, I know that things are still happening because there's a system, there's a process in place, it's documented. We have criteria for things. Everything is very systematized in a way that, you know, if somebody leaves, I can hire somebody, plug them right in, and they've got all the tools they need to do the job. So we're setting people up for success and not failure on the hiring end of things. And then, you know, one thing I was talking with somebody about the other day is you need the systems and processes, but where the real magic happens, in my mind, is the delegation of the systems and processes. So, you know, when you have those things done and are in place, that's when you can say, okay, I can get that off my plate now. I can get that off my plate. You know, so for what I teach people, you know, when they get stuck in this systems and process mess is, you know, you're the bottleneck. You're feeling very overwhelmed, right? You don't have anything documented. So sit down, write down every single thing you do, no matter how big or small it is, write it down, group the things together that make sense. If you're doing a bunch of admin stuff, those all tasks go together. If you find yourself doing too much bookkeeping or project management, and just group all the things that you're doing together, then you can write systems and processes for those things. And then you can figure out which one is the biggest pain in the butt right now. You know, like I never liked acquisitions, you know, so that was a thing to get off my plate. And then project management, and then bookkeeping. And you can determine, like, based on what's causing you the most stress, that's your next hire. But then the beauty is, because you've made that list of all the tasks associated with that position, now you know what to document and what that role should look like for each person. So there's a lot of things that documenting and just writing that stuff down solves for you.
So what does your team look like today?
It's super lean.
Well, I'm a favor of that, just so you know. I think there's a way to do it super lean.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, and I had never had an interest in building it up to be a big thing anyways, because I'm more focused on lean and profitable
Right.
versus doing a billion deal. You know, that's the thing too. You know, I don't want to flip 100 houses a year. You know, I'm at a point in my life where I want to start enjoying the fruits of my labor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, you know, cut back drastically. So I went from a team of, I think I had like 7 people, and now there's 2 of us. And then I have some stuff that's outsourced. So I don't have an office anymore, which is really great.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, realized during COVID, of course, you know, I don't really need to have an office anymore. We can all work remotely. Everything was working fine. Again, because we have systems and processes in place, I think that made that transition from having an actual office space with everyone in the office to being able to work remotely.
I think that's huge. And I think for people think that they think they need all this huge staff. You really don't. I think some of the most successful businesses I've seen, they have like one person. It's an admin person. It's really, I think Amy Porterfield, if you ever listen to her podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy, her person is an integrator. The integrator is the person you give everything to, whether that's one person or whether she has one person or 2 contractors, doesn't matter who's under her, but that person is the person who makes sure the other people get the stuff done. And that I've learned is actually true freedom from the day-to-day of it. But you don't need a big team. Some people, as their business grows, they do need other team members. But if you choose purposely a lifestyle business, a lean lifestyle business, you're not going to need a lot of people. You'll need to outsource, like we were talking about. Podcast stuff can be easily outsourced. So there's a way to build your business so that you love your business and that it works for you.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that too.
Now I know you are co-founded the InvestHer meetup in San Antonio. I'm a huge fan of networking, and I think that networking, even for introverts, is the most underrated form of building your business on the planet. It's certainly you want to know people, but it's about who knows you. Mm-hmm. Who knows you when they have a deal that they can't sell, and if it's real estate, or who knows you when they have something. Hey, I can't keep my podcast person full time. Do you need a podcast person? So you want to become that person. So tell me a little bit about the InvestHer meetup.
Sure. So I love the InvestHer community. I think they've done great things to help women feel comfortable in the real estate space, and provided, you know, they have meetups all over the country. And I have met some amazing, awesome women through that group. And our group, we just started it. It was so sad. We started it right before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. So we planned, you know, our first event, and we got a really cool venue and stuff. And we were so excited, and then everything just stopped. So we've been online, virtual this entire time. We've never had an in-person meetup, but we have, I think, close to 250 people in our group already.
Wow.
Yeah. And not bad for not meeting in person.
Yeah.
And, you know, they seem really engaged, and it's a great place for women to feel comfortable to ask questions. And we share our successes. We share our deals. We talk a lot about mindset, you know, so we'll go in and we'll just share, if something hits me and I want to share and it's helpful for me, then, you know, I'll share that in the group. Mm-hmm. And we try to keep conversation moving always in that group and keep people engaged, because I think that also adds to that feeling of being supported, you know, having that community to be a part of and have a listening ear, you know, for what you're going. And there are all levels of people in there too. There's people that have never done deals. There's some that have done a couple. There's a few that have done a lot of deals. So it's a good group.
Mm-hmm. How did you grow it to such a big membership in such a short time?
Honestly, I think that a big part of it was just a need. You know, what we realized was that there were no women's groups in San Antonio. In this city, in Bexar County where we're at, there's like 2 point something million people,
Oh, okay.
and how is there no women's groups?
Right.
It kind of blew my mind. And so I went to there was one women's group meetup that happened. It was brand new, and I went, and it was fine, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And so I thought, well, if I can't find what I'm looking for, I'll just start my own thing.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we did. And I got a girlfriend of mine. She's got a pretty good network of people that she's connected to. I have a pretty good network. So between the two of us, we've grown it completely organically. We've done no paid advertising or anything like that.
You have it on Meetup or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on Meetup, and then just through Facebook, through our networks on Facebook.
Right.
And then we actually got a feature in San Antonio Monthly from the network. So that was really great,
Nice.
because she saw what we were doing and she said, that is so awesome. I want to do a write-up about you guys. So we got a whole magazine spread.
Nice. Well, congrats on that, because having a place for women to come is so important. So I want to talk about your new podcast you're starting. What's the name? What's it called?
Yeah, so it's the E3 podcast.
E3.
E3. And it should be out on iTunes pretty soon, but I think it's on Stitcher and Google Play and all the other places where podcasts go. I should probably know more about that, but I actually have somebody that does the content stuff for me. But I'm really excited for that to launch on iTunes, because I've interviewed some really awesome women. The premise of the podcast, so with, I've launched the coaching, so it kind of ties in with that. So what I'm doing is working through issues that female entrepreneurs have in their business, and we're doing it live and we're talking about it. But the E3, what that means is, I was thinking about women and that I wanted to help women. And I thought, well, a podcast would be a great way to do that. But what am I going to call it? This kind of stuff. So it just came to me. I just kept thinking, educating and empowering and like all these E words kept coming up in my mind. So it ended up, forming into a thing where it's, I want to encourage women. I want to educate women, and then I want to empower them, because my goal is to create a ripple effect of positive supportiveness for other women. So if I can help these women go through the process, because I think that's really, if you break everything down, that's kind of like the three main keys. We want to be encouraged. You want to feel support. So that's mindset stuff, right? So you get your mind right. Now you need to educate yourself. You need the nuts and bolts of how to do things in your business. But then once you get all that and you get some deals under your belt, I would love to see women take that and go help other women, so that it's perpetuating always.
It's so interesting. Yeah, the name is definitely unique. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today, Melissa. Do you have any final advice for any woman who's sitting back there thinking they're on the fence, they want to jump in? What's your advice to those women?
My advice would be to, first of all, know that you can do it. There are so many women out there that are doing it, and find them, find your people, find your tribe of people, find somebody that you connect with as a coach or a mentor or in a group that, will provide that environment for you to feel supported and safe in taking that risk, because that's the biggest thing. You have to understand, if you want to do something bad enough, you're going to do it. And you just have to not be afraid, because what's on the other side of that fear, and you don't know until you do it. So educate yourself to a point, but then there comes the point where you need to take action. So don't be afraid to take action. And if you fail, look at that as a learning opportunity. What did you learn from that? What would you do different next time? Who do you need to help you? Maybe there's something in that failure, that a part of that where you did something wrong and you need help with that particular area. Maybe it's marketing, maybe you had a marketing fail or something. And so just, find people that can help you in the journey, because they are out there and they want to help.
I agree completely. And I think one of the biggest differences that I know exists between women that make it, or people in general that make it in this business or any business, is they see the fire, they feel the danger, and they walk through it anyway. You
Right.
just got, as Nike says, just do it. There is a lot of that. You just have to jump in and be uncomfortable. And I would go so far as to say, if you're not spending a lot of time outside your comfort zone, then you're not taking on enough. You're not challenging yourself enough to be the best you can be.
Absolutely.
What's the best way for people to reach you, Melissa?
I can be found on, I have a website that I got set up. So it's themelissajohnson.com. There's some info about me there and what I'm doing. Also on Instagram, Melissa Johnson 8, and Facebook and LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thanks again so much. This was so much fun, diving through all the mindset stuff and the challenges. I love that. And folks, I want to thank everybody for showing up today. We do appreciate the fact that you come and listen, and would love it if you would share this episode and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. And in the meantime, I will see you same time, same place next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.